For USCFootball.com, Connor Morrissette and Chris Trevino. We're here for instant analysis after a late night USC football practice. Recording this a little bit after 10 p.m. Thank you to our friend Keely Yor who provided the light. Without the light, we'd be in some trouble. But let's break down what we saw today, Chris. Marquis Lee, USC legend, was at practice, and Jacoby Lane dapped him up and then had a big yell, as he always does, on the way into practice. It was great to see Marquis Lee. He seems tight with everyone here on the coaching staff.
Yeah, everyone showing reverence for the All-American and the Blitnikoff Award winner for coming through. Mekhi Lemon hugged him. Corey Sims, the freshman, hugged him. There was a lot of respects being paid for a USC legend being on campus, and he was having fun out there dancing around, getting to talk to coaches and stuff. Talk to the refs as well. There's referees here, so off the bat, a night practice, we got some special guests here.
Eric Gentry had a nice moment with him as well. He probably paid the most respect to Marquis Lee.
Yeah, one thing that Eric Gentry is going to do is going to pay respects to USC legends. Every time there is someone of USC stature on the sideline, he always goes up to them and pays respect. So no surprise that informed all the media, wanted to let you guys know Marquis Lee is in the house. Show respect to him. So yeah, Eric Gentry always paying homage to the greats.
We'll wait to hear from Lincoln Riley later this week for an official injury update. Some key guys still out today. One thing might be more of a lingering issue than we first anticipated, so we'll get an update on that and report on it when we can. Not everyone was present for practice today, Chris, which that had been the case earlier, but like I said, we'll provide an update down the line when we know more. Other observations from you today, DJ Harvey, he was working with the safety group during practice, during the viewing period of practice. He might be playing some nickel. We asked Coach Lynn about that, Danton Lynn, afterwards, and he said, yeah, they're trying him out at nickel a little bit, but it was interesting to see Harvey with the safety group.
Yeah, Lynn confirmed that, he's been working as the field and the boundary and now playing in the slot as well, and did individual drills with the safety group earlier today, and earlier in practice when we were there. And this is kind of the first time I've been able to watch the defensive back groups. Mainly you're kind of watching those guys. So as far as we know, this is kind of the first time Harvey has been with them that we've seen. So getting that experience, obviously he has played in the slot before when he was at San Jose State. He did some of that in game situations as he described it. When there were certain matchups in the slot, they would put him in there, so it wasn't a full-time nickel in that sense. So getting some reps there, he's grateful for the opportunity to learn and just wants to learn as much as he can every position for the defense. So this is something we've talked about, potentially Harvey playing as a nickel, give the defense more versatility. Dan Lynn loves versatility. He has a little bit of experience there. So it makes sense. Maybe if they want to get their 5 best on the field, maybe that includes Harvey as a nickel. Maybe put your big 2 corners out there, Chasen Johnson to Carlos Nicholson, what have you, Bryce Bishop Fitzgerald, and then Kamari Ramsey. So there's a lot of different lineups you could do. Obviously, Prophet Brown in there as well. But obviously, getting more repetition as a slot could be a game changer for the defense in terms of what matchups you can do and how much and what different lineups you can throw out there.
Versatility, that's the key word. That's what Danton Lynn is looking for. The safeties were hitting the sleds today during the media viewing period of practice, and I thought Bishop Fitzgerald looked very strong. I thought Christian Pierce looked really strong, and then Alex Graham, it was a freshman moment. He hit the sled probably a little harder than Doug Belk would have liked. He knocked it over, and Doug Belk was like, come on, man. But from all accounts, Chris, Alex Graham is a guy who we hear really good things about. Danton Lynn said today the fact that even though he's a first-year guy, Alex Graham has picked up the defense really quickly. That's allowed him to be moved all over the place, and they've played him at corner, nickel, and safety. He's someone I'd buy stock in.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, Doug Belk, quote-unquote, asked for a violent shed.
Yes.
So, knocking the sled over, I think he gave him what he asked for. But, yes, Alex Graham, a good group of freshmen, cornerbacks, defensive backs have been added here. Looks like Alex Graham is kind of emerging as kind of the early one out of that group. And, obviously, all those guys could have special teams ability, but Alex Graham, I think Ryan Doherty, the special teams coordinator, specifically mentioned Graham as one of those guys that he's going to use. So looks like he is kind of rising as far as his stock. And as you said, I would buy a little bit of Alex Graham stock as well. Detroit, Michigan's own.
he's a riser, and he was fitting in really well at practice. We saw him walking off the field with some of his teammates. It looks just like he's fitting in very well. Floyd Boucard is another guy who seems to be fitting in really well. I wrote a story about him for the website earlier this week. We've been getting a lot of good reviews from him. Of course, Jakeem Stewart came in with a world full of expectations, and it seems like he's off to a good start. I do value when we hear little tidbits about the freshmen. They may not play a huge role in their first year, but just you never really know what you're going to get from a guy until he steps foot on campus. And when we hear these good things about those first-year players, it's significant because I think they're on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the freshmen kind of grow and learn and adjust at their own pace. Obviously, this is college. You're not just playing football. You got other responsibilities. You're on your own for the first time. You're away from home for a lot of these guys, and you got academics to deal with, social stuff to deal with. So it's a lot being thrown at you as a freshman, especially the summer enrollees and guys that just got here. That's why the spring is so important for those guys that get here on early, or so the winter enrollees. They can adjust quicker, and by the time you hit fall camp, they got their feet under them, so everyone's learning at a different pace. So it's cool to see who grows and who emerges, and we'll see some guys emerge midway through the season as they get their sea legs, if you will.
I'd put Hassan Longstreet in that group. Of course, we feel like he's going to be the backup quarterback this season. I'd also throw Romero Eisen in, and this is just from a very limited viewing period of practice, but I've been impressed with what he's been able to do with the routes on air stuff. So he's someone who, again, I don't know if he'll have a huge impact this first year, but he looks like he belongs to me. One other guy, Chris, I don't think he's going to have a huge impact this first year, but we heard from Danton Lynn, Matai Tagoai today, the linebacker, the true freshman. Lynn said, and he says this about all the freshmen, they are still making a lot of mistakes, but he said this about Matai. He makes some plays that really impress you, and you can see why he was such a highly ranked guy. He is perhaps going to be a special teamer. He's a guy who needs to add some weight, but another guy is on the right track.
Yeah, one of my favorite recruits from this past cycle, out of San Clemente, thank you. By way of Las Vegas, I believe he played out there. Faith Lutheran, and 6'4", super violent. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Eric Gentry in terms of his violence and his energy. Really good pass rusher. Obviously has to develop more as a complete linebacker, but had a really nice catch in the the coverage drills for the linebackers going up against Eric Gentry, who was playing kind of the wide receiver. Eric Gentry was kind of joking that he was going to make a spectacular grab in this drill, but obviously all they have to do is play a dummy receiver, and Matai went up, got the ball, almost bobbled. He bobbled it, almost didn't come down with it, but he came down with the interception, and Eric Gentry gave him props for coming down with the ball. So yeah, definitely fitting in, definitely learning, and definitely a special potential player given that length and that pass rush ability.
We talk about the importance of rep hierarchy sometimes during the media viewing period, Chris, and the defensive ends today, Cameron Fountain and Anthony Lucas, took the first reps. It would be a surprise to me if those two guys weren't the starters against Missouri State during week 1. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I'd probably feel the same, but I think that trio of Lucas, Fountain, and then Braylon Shelby, that's just going to be kind of a three-headed starting role. They're going to rotate a lot, but yeah, I would assume Fountain, one of them for sure. Lucas coming off the knee injury, kind of coming back. Seems like he's full go here for camp, so they missed him. I talked to Braylon Shelby, and they were like, it's great to have him back out there on the field. Brings a lot of energy. Still looking for that first career sack, but when he's out there and he's fully healthy, he's one of their best defensive linemen, even though still trying to develop as a pass rusher. All of them are. They need pass rush this season, but yeah, it's going to be a three-headed monster between those three.
Anything else jump out to you from the media viewing period, or can we move on to some post-practice notes?
I think we can move on.
We heard from Danton Lynn and some other defensive players. Let's start with Danton Lynn. He talks a lot about obnoxious effort, or obnoxious communication and great effort. What is it? I'm messing up. It's something about effort, something about communication. And I asked him, who are the guys who give the best effort day in and day out? He mentioned 3 players, Eric Gentry, Devin Tompkins, and then a walk-on, Roman Marchetti, the linebacker. He was at Media Day. The staff really loves him, but not a surprise to hear about Gentry and Tompkins in that role.
Nicknamed Cheese,
yes.
I believe. I believe he said obnoxious effort.
Obnoxious effort.
I
okay.
believe that's what it was.
He says obnoxious communication,
too. He
too.
has said that, too, so I don't know.
I
don't know if he's just throwing it out there for all of it, but yeah, Devin Tompkins, not surprised by that. Super hard worker. Eric Gentry, really not surprised by that, but, Roman Marchetti, Cheese, also getting some love. One of the hardest practicing players.
Good special teams guy.
Yeah, good special teams guy. One of those glue guys. Excuse me. Wow. One of those glue guys you need on the team and the program, and they help bind everything together. So awesome to see him get some love from Dan Lynn.
Danton Lynn was asked also by Keely, another shout out to her, how he evaluates practice tape, and I thought that was a really interesting answer, where he says he watches it twice to just get a feel of how everyone did, and then he's really looking for effort and execution, and then he'll watch it a third time and a fourth time to really zone in on specific things that he noted that first time. It's very interesting to hear from a great football mind like Danton Lynn just how he goes about evaluating practice. That was something else that stood out to me. I wonder if he's going to do that tonight where it's a later night, or if he'll save it for tomorrow morning.
I would bank that he would be doing that. I know he's a young father, but it's football season, baby. You got to get that studying in. We should start studying our incident analysis and watch them a couple times before we send them out there. Yeah. But, yeah, that was a great tidbit. Just something you learn a little bit more about Dan Lynn and his process. And he likes to watch it multiple times before he even sits down with the defensive staff. So, yeah, that just shows why he's, one of the best young defensive coordinators in the game.
Coach Lynn had a note on Floyd Boucard. He had the note on Matai Tagawai. I asked him who is surprising him, and he said the position battles are surprising him, but he mentioned Matai by name when I asked him about surprise players. And then who is he challenging? Who does he want to get the most out of? He didn't have any specific names, but he mentioned the cornerback room and the secondary guys, specifically the cornerbacks. He's looking for someone to separate. There's a lot of high-end depth at that position, and that's a good thing, but now they want someone 7 practices in here as fall camp continues to lock down a starting role, whether that's DeCarlos Nicholson, Chasen Johnson, DJ Harvey. They're looking for guys, the staff is, to say, hey, this is my position, I'm a starter, and take it, and that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, just build a little edge in that room. We know it's a competitive room with the addition of Chasen Johnson and DeCarlos Nicholson, who we think is having a really good fall camp after a good spring. DJ Harvey, got a lot of reps as the one in the spring, now moving around, but you got 2 hungry guys, redshirt freshmen, Braylon Conley, Marcellus Williams. They want some playing time as well, and we just talked about Alex Graham and his potential. So a lot of competition, not really like a star guy in that room, but you feel like it could be a strong room this season just from the competitive nature. Maybe not the most talented group in the world. There's no former 5-star in there, no guy with like 3 years of starting ability, first round grade on them, but a gritty room that brings a lot of ability and length and a lot of different qualities and hunger as those 2 young guys I mentioned. So interested to see how that room all comes together, to complement, Kamari Ramsey and that safety room.
There's your first round grade guy. You heard from Braylon Shelby today. What did you make of his discussion, his interview? I'm sure you asked him some good questions.
Always lovely to talk to Braylon. Obviously a guy that you want to see take that next step in his development. He feels confident, that he can get there, and he spoke highly of that defensive end room and how they all push each other. As I mentioned, getting Anthony Lucas back on the field. Him and Cameron Fountain have a, competitive back and forth with them in the weight room, so they're pushing each other to be the best, and just that room in general. He did have an interesting comment about how everyone's out there, trying to get their sacks, trying to make those plays in practice. So I asked him, are you guys tracking this stuff? Are you guys tracking like your sacks and your tackles for loss and all the big plays? And he says, yes. Skylar Jones, Eric Henderson's like right-hand man as a defensive graduate assistant, however you want to label him. He's been keeping the official tally of all the stats that these guys have. I'm assuming just for like the defensive line. So he keeps track of, interceptions, swatted balls, TFLs, sacks, all that good stuff. So we asked him, obviously, what are your numbers? He was like, they haven't officially released those numbers yet. I'm assuming maybe at the end of fall camp. So I was like, got to give me something, Braylon. Like, what's your unofficial? He's like, he feels unofficially by his own tally, he has about 5 or 6 sacks this fall camp so far. So I thought that was interesting.
So far, so good. I talked with Desmond Stevens, who is a singer. I didn't know that, Chris.
Whoa,
he
okay.
is a singer, and he was asked, could he sing right now? And he said, well, give me 2 weeks with a vocal coach, and then I could match anyone. What's his go-to karaoke song? He didn't have a specific one, but he said he likes to sing a lot of R&B, and that was something that I didn't know about him. It continues to feel like he's the starting Mike linebacker. He talked a lot about how he's playing there and he's getting the calls, and I would just be surprised at this point if it wasn't him. And I asked him, he's a second-year guy, what has he done to give this coaching staff so much confidence in him? Because it's a big position that he's going to fill if he is that starting Mike linebacker. And he said just last year, learning it, understanding it, and just playing intelligently, and now I feel like I know the defense and I can go out there and I don't have to think as much, and that's the big key. But he's a guy that the coaching staff is going to rely on a lot. I think he's going to have a huge year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Des can do, given starts and snaps, and we saw the potential. That Penn State interception, you saw it. That's like the peak of what we saw last year from him. Like, that's those ball skills, a former safety, physical, can run, do it all. So again, there's probably going to be a little adjustment period, just being the starting Mike linebacker as a true sophomore. But man, he could be special. And I know Gerard Martinez, if you listen to the 2-star, was pounding the table for him. This is a guy, like, I do not know how he got. USC got him out of the Big Ten country out there in the Midwest with all those Big Ten programs, and they're kind of all overlooked him. So they think they got a real gem, and we're going to see this season in what he has, playing alongside Eric Gentry. And yeah, you're right, could be a huge season for him as a starter.
You also said playing alongside Eric Gentry makes his life so much easier, because remember last year when he started to play more, Gentry had already redshirted, so this is a big boost to that room for sure, having both of those guys, Stevens with more experience, Gentry with his All-American potential. It'll be really fun to watch how that group performs this year under Rob Ryan. You also heard from DJ Harvey today, Chris. Takeaways from that conversation?
Yeah, again, really blessed to be, he used the word blessed a lot, but like really excited about the opportunity to learn slot, outside, just getting the opportunity to play multiple different positions in this defense, and obviously up his draft stock and his draft ability. So there were some scouts here at NFL scouts here at practice today, which is the first time I think we've seen him in fall camp in a
Good
minute.
note.
Yeah. So he's just really excited about being able to play multiple different positions and get a chance to learn everything, and have an impact at different spots, whether that's field, whether that's boundary, whether that's slot, whether that's safety, whatever. Just to be able to have that opportunity.
I spoke with DeCarlos Nicholson. That was the last interview of the day, and he's just going to be a fan favorite this year, I think. I envision him as a starting corner. I think he's taken that next step. I could see him having a really big year. Trevon Reed spoke very highly of Nicholson and said he's going to be successful in football, but then he's going to be really successful in life, whatever he does after football. But I think the staff thinks that he has a chance here to potentially play in the NFL, which a year ago I don't think anyone was having that conversation with him. But that just goes to show these guys run their own races. I mean, he was a junior college quarterback. He's still relatively new to the cornerback position. He is a guy who it's just so easy to root for. He talked about how he has his young son who they call D, and then Trevon Reed just had twins, and he has a young family as well. So he's talking with his position coach about being a father, and Trevon Reed is married, and DeCarlos Nicholson has talked to him about just, off the field relationship stuff. It's a really unique relationship that they have, and that was something else that stood out to me. I think Trevon Reed, he's known as a great recruiter, obviously, but he is really good at connecting with his players, and even though he's new to USC, that's really shown through here a few months into his tenure.
Yeah, I'm really high on DeCarlos Nicholson, just third year playing cornerback in general. As you mentioned, a junior college quarterback, has a lot of athletic ability, has a lot of ability in general. He's so long, looks like an NFL quarterback, probably needs to add a little more mass to his frame going to the next level, but he has all the traits that you want to see. And as I mentioned, I feel like he's having a really good fall camp, had a good spring camp, got a lot of reps as the one, coming back, getting that extra year of JUCO or from the the JUCO stuff. So really excited to see what he brings to the table this year, going to his final season. And yeah, could be a starter, could be one of those guys that just pops, maybe ends up being a really good Big Ten cornerback and gets drafted. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how it all comes together for number 17.
Yep.
17.
He thought last year was his last year, and then the junior college stuff happens, and he gets this year back. That has to be such a great feeling. And I asked him, if you could go back in time when you were a junior college quarterback, what would you tell yourself about your journey? And he said it's a wild ride, but it's been a really fun ride. And that's what makes college football so awesome, where you can start at the junior college ranks, and the next thing you know, you have a really high ceiling, a lot of potential, and the world is your oyster. So he's, again, someone I'm certainly going to be rooting for this year. Really good kid, excited to share that interview with you. That'll be on our YouTube a little bit later this week, so be on the lookout for that. That's going to wrap it up for Instant Analysis. He's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morrissette. We'll be back on Friday with another edition. Chris has one more note.
I just want to note, this is the latest, this sets the record for the latest practice instant analysis we've ever done. I checked with Keely, who obviously did a million of these.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to her for the light to make this happen. But I just want to know a little bit of history. Latest practice instant we've ever done for USCfootball.com. Just want to put that out there.
If you're watching this, it's probably going to be on Thursday because it's so late here. We're running up against the clock. It's almost midnight, so we got to run. We'll see you Friday. Like I said, he's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morrissette. See you Friday.